Welcome back to another Thomas Wooden Railway review. Today's character is a fan favorite. He's vain, can be kind of a pain, but we love him all the same. Yep, I'm talking about James the Red Engine. He's got some beautiful models that I can't wait to dive into. But first, some history. James is an experimental version of a Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Class 28 with a few modifications. He was given a set of small leading wheels, a longer running board, a Fowler tender, and has slightly bigger driving wheels than other engines of his class. Another change was the addition of wooden brake blocks. Although seemingly inconsequential at the time, this alteration contributed to James's famous crash with the troublesome truck shortly after he arrived on Sodor. After being repaired, James received his famous coat of red paint, which he has worn ever since, although he has sported a few temporary liveries here and there for plot purposes. Because Thomas Wooden Railway toys were not produced until the early 90s between seasons 3 and 4, James has always worn red as his default color. He would eventually receive a special release commemorating his original black paint, but that's a topic for another video. This 1993 model may be one of the earliest versions of James produced, as it has a super skinny funnel, an unpainted dome, jet black coal in the tender, and staples underneath. The eyes are messed up, for lack of a better term, but that's because this toy was handcrafted in the US before production was moved overseas the following year. I have another later version of 1993 James, and you can already see some changes. There's a thin clear coat over the entire model, the funnel and dome are shorter and rounder, the latter finally being painted, the smoke box is connected to the front buffer beam, the lining around the tender and number has been greatly reduced, and we've already moved on to speckled coal. Just 1 year later, this 1994 rendition gets rid of the staples underneath and adds dates to the inside of the wheels. It's crazy how fast James evolved during this era, especially the details on his tender. This is how James would look into the early 2000s, while receiving round magnets in 1996, thicker wheels in 1997, plastic coal in 1998, and a plastic smokebox and funnel in 1999. In 2001, we received a new version of James. You may have already guessed that he finally got his name printed on his chassis, but surprisingly, James also received a gold dome for the first time. This is one of those things that I never noticed as a kid, but when it's finally brought to your attention, it's like, yeah, James has a beautiful gold dome in the Railway series and TV series. But for some reason, that was never brought over to Wooden Railway. So there do exist versions of 2001 James with a gold dome. He's identical in every other way. It's certainly a nice touch that would definitely be overlooked in today's toy-making world. However, that style of James would be replaced in 2002 with a revamped model that contains a larger face and smoke box, a wider boiler, new tender, better wheel arches, and some more added details. While most of these 2002 revisions fall flat in the area of accuracy for me, I actually really enjoy James's new look, and it's all spearheaded by a new expression. Somehow they nailed this beaming James grin, which is a surprise considering his other castmates' looks are nothing to write home about. The addition of gold lining and a handrail across the boiler is a really nice touch, but I was always confused by this dip in the handrail's design. I think it's supposed to represent the handrail working its way around the curvature of the boiler near the firebox, but that's just a guess. Regardless, it's something you can't unsee when you finally notice it. Still, I am a big fan of James's 2002 redesign. When I think of mid-2000s Thomas Wooden Railway, this is the model that instantly comes to mind. And this is how James looked until 2011, when he and his friends finally received their ill-fated CGI face upgrades. Gotta be honest, if this toy wasn't painted red and didn't have a number 5 on the tender, I would have no idea who this engine is supposed to be. This is a very forgettable face. However, Fisher-Price arrived on the scene in 2013 and gave us a brilliant James expression. It's a dead-on copy and paste from his render in the TV series. Other small changes include a completely straight handrail, extra lining that transcends the entire curvature of the boiler, a visible whistle on the cab roof for the first time, and a slightly different number font on the tender. This version is a winner in my book, but what's not a winner is the 2017 update right before Thomas Wood took over. This change to the face always seemed so unnecessary to me. Don't know why they felt the need to mess with something so good, but honestly, I try to forget it ever happened. And now we come to everybody's favorite pariah in the history of Thomas Wooden Railway, the Wood era, and I'll just let the pictures do the talking. Admittedly, this version of James is not as butchered as some of the longer tender engines like Gordon or Hero, but the exposed wood does no favors to the color palette. James used to have a vibrant, eye-catching design, and now the reds and browns are duking it out over real estate, and it's so hard to watch. The face also underwent another major change. Again, I don't understand why you have to mess with something that was literally perfect. The 2019 painted update is a step in the right direction, but the face is still off, the tender is crude, and remember that beautiful gold dome? Yeah, it's no more. I'm starting to feel a little red in the face, so let's jump ahead a few years to 2022. Like Edward, another mixed traffic engine, James has been lengthened and is a really impressive model, although it does take some time to get used to his new dimensions since he was so short for so long. His correct 260 wheel arrangement is proudly on display, the tangible gold dome is back, the wheel arches are next to the boiler, and even that quirky handrail design has returned. And of course, I always have to comment on the expression, but this is a very nice default James face. There's really no need to swap it out with something more generic or safe. There's a lot to love about this toy, but admittedly, it's not perfect. In my opinion, James's smokebox has been stretched too far. This goes back to him being an experimental engine with a longer running board, but he's starting to look like a giraffe with a long neck. The side view does him no favors, and I try to view this model head-on when possible. I also miss the visible whistle on the roof of the cab. A small omission, I know, but I'd really grown to like it. And another nitpick is the number of wheels on the tender. I'm not saying you could have made it slightly longer to fit 6 wheels in order to make him accurate to his basis, but this is a strange choice considering other areas of James's design have been painstakingly preserved. But don't let these comments fool you into thinking I'm not a fan of 2022 James. I absolutely adore this model, and it's definitely the most accurate version we've ever received. However, James had a really classic shape for the better part of 25 years that is seared into my memory, and sometimes it's still a bit of a surprise to look at this toy and see everything that has changed. But there's no denying that this is a stand-up, super detailed version, one that would even make the fussiest of engines like James give his approval. Let me know which version is your favorite, whether it's due to its design or sentimental value. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll talk soon.